Superstars, welcome to another episode of the Odd Couple of Real Estate. It's yours truly, Mr. Tycoon. And, they like to say our partner in crime, but our partner in profit, Mr. Don Do a Deal DeRosa.
What up? What up? You got a lot more energy than I do today.
Okay, let's get the energy leveled off because this is one that I'm excited about. We're seeing everything going on, and again, for those who are listening, go back and watch our other episodes on YouTube or wherever you found us at. And I have a show on Mr. Tycoon Uncut that's on all the podcasts, and so you can see all our episodes over there also. But today's topic, right now, people talking about we're in the recession. We see Zillow going out of business. We see OfferPad is talking about they losing money. What's working right now to get a lead? I got my T-shirt on for those who may not be watching. The incoming call. What's getting the phone to ring? What's getting people to raise their hand and say, I got a house to sell? Because we understand this. For those who don't know it, we don't find a deal, we get a lead, and the deal is inside the lead. If you just look at the spelling of that, L-E-A-D, D-E-A-L. The deal is in the lead. And that's when you have the knowledge to be able to determine if it's a deal or a dud. And so, Mr. Don Do a Deal DeRosa, what's working right now for yourself and your students that you have cross country?
Well, I think I always say this: everything works if you do.
Right.
And we had this conversation just minutes before we went on. It's like, over the last 2 years, I've become, I said lazy, but
right.
Complacent.
And on cruise control.
Yeah.
And that's what we were discussing. And this and I want to say this to you all right quick before Don jumps in here. We're sharing this because both of us is kind of like these go-getters, and we've been in the business over 2 decades, and we have transitioned from the wholesaling to subject to new construction to building. So we've done a handful of different ways of doing the business, and also we got some assets now. So it's not we live in month to month. Got to close the deal. Got to close the deal to take care of our bills or our living expense, and that's a good place to be in. But at the same time, with COVID and things going on, I was just asking, mentally, I haven't had that fire, that go. Even, we didn't talk about working out and when I'm working on my workout, or I'm working on this book, or we've been working on this podcast, and we're like, well, we do.
Well, look how lazy we've been with the podcast.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like,
people are sending me messages, hey, when are you going to start your podcast back up? And it's true.
Right.
It's true. It's like, man, literally we lost an entire year of our lives.
Right. Sitting around wondering. And if you allowed it to put fear in you, that was even worse.
Well, I don't think it put fear in me.
I'm just talking about our society in general.
I agree.
People were fighting about if you ain't got your mask on or don't come near me.
Well, yeah, I agree. It didn't affect me that way, but it made, I don't know, I'll be honest with you, it made me lazy.
Right.
For a while. And I'm just now, we're 2, almost 3 years later.
Right.
I'm just pulling my ass out of this thing.
Right. And that's why I was asking, this term is thrown around a lot now, mental health. And I was like, did this have more of an effect on me than I knew? Because I kind of feel like I've been in this fog. Even though me and my family, we've been traveling, but we've been to Mexico like 8 times. So we just got back from Jamaica. It felt good to be somewhere else. I'm like, the water is different in Jamaica than in Mexico, which is much more beautiful to me. But as I said, is it mental? What's this fog? And I'm just pushing myself out of this. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start teaching again. And I haven't had a student other than one-on-one student probably the last 2 years. I haven't done a group training.
I stopped doing one-on-ones for a while, and I may pick up 1 or 2 here in the future, but I still do my group coaching.
Right.
And it's been pretty well because everyone's excited about what the economy is going to do. That may sound terrible because I don't want to say we're hoping that the economy crashes.
Right.
But at the same breath, it is what's going to reinvigorate real estate. I mean, if you're a traditional real estate investor and you don't know any better and you're paying cash and you're getting loans, you've enjoyed the last couple years.
Right.
Last few years. But if you're a like you and I,
transaction engineers, creative
financing, that's been non-existent for the last few years.
Right.
And in all honesty, that's really what makes or creates wealth, is the ability to utilize creative financing, because not everybody has large amounts of money or perfect credit.
Right.
Okay. So when you have an economy that I think we're heading into, that lends itself to someone that doesn't need as much credit, doesn't need as much money. And when I first started, for example, just a quick story, I was a district field service manager for Airborne Express, and I made decent money. But when I decided to jump into real estate, I didn't know what I was doing. I could barely spell real estate, let alone know what real estate was. So I was afraid.
Right.
I was afraid. I had a little bit of money. I had good credit. I mean, I didn't have bad credit, but I didn't want to use either one of them. So when I started learning from these 3 a.m. infomercial folks. And,
right.
And it told you to go buy a house and then leverage that and go get another loan and so on and so forth. And I just, in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, that's just not something that I want to do. And then I came across the technique called Subject To, where somebody literally would give you their home, like sign over the deed to you.
Right.
And people used to say, no one's going to do that. Well, I didn't know any better, so I went out and started looking for these. And within the first week that I was doing this, I bought 4 houses my very first week with a simple ad that said in the AJC Home Finder, we buy houses, and then a phone number. My first week doing that, I bought 4 houses from an investor, tired landlord, that basically just gave me the deed. I put $1 earnest money on each one of those contracts, and I took them over subject to the existing financing. And I've never looked back since.
What I like to add, one caveat to that, my first year of doing it, once I learned it, I took over 100 houses subject to, unknowing, because I didn't finish reading the course, that you're supposed to make them pay for the first 3 months, Yeah. And so I had all these houses that I was carrying a note on because I was just so excited to get it, and my wholesale business was killing it at that time. And so we're not talking about something that is just theory. This is practicality, what we've done. And even now what we're talking about, because we talked a little bit before, is some of these practical things that we did then that we didn't have all this technology like PropStream, which I'm a fan of, or Batch Lead doing the texting, and I know you do the auto dialer or, ringless voicemails. But certain things that we learned foundationally of driving for dollars. When you see a house, which I would say is still number one working right now for myself and my students, is driving for dollars. When you see a house and you have the ability now, because of cost of doing skip tracing, it's so much more economical in comparison, where there was $50 to $75 to get something skip traced. And
I mean, when we first started, you didn't have the tools that we have today.
None. I mean, we were still faxing.
You had to go down to like your local RIA group, and they had these discs. They had these computers where you would go on there and you would search like tax records.
I forgot they had that because I had my own subscription, but I do remember now that you can actually go into the RIA and use the subscription service.
I can't remember what the name of it was, but
I remember they were green.
Yeah, but I mean, you couldn't just go and use your own computer and look this stuff up. I mean, it was painstaking.
Right.
And now everything is at your fingertips. And in fact, some of it is too accessible, and you don't even know what's good data versus bad data.
Right.
Because we're so inundated with data. That's a whole other subject. That's a whole other podcast. It's like, which data should you be trusting. Everybody and their brothers that has any kind of technology background is trying to sell you a lead, whether it's a good lead or not. Like, you don't know the difference sometimes.
Right.
So, I mean, that you got to ask yourself, so what really is working right now? Always, I tell my students, so think about it this way. You can't it's not as simple as like, where should I spend money, or what kind of leads are working? They all work if you do.
Right.
But it comes down to, it's like a fingerprint or skin color, right? You and I have different skin color. We have different eye color. We have different hair color. Well, some of us have different hair color.
Right.
Right? So it's like a snowflake, right? Everybody is different. Everybody's unique. Everybody's business is unique. Everybody's marketing is unique. So you have to ask yourself, how much time do I have? How much money do I have? So you and I, we've been brought up in the same school of hard knocks, but you may go, I'm not spending nearly as, like, I have a home fencer franchise. I typically spend anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 a month in marketing. But someone else outside of that, because it's a franchise, someone else outside of that might spend $2,000 and actually get the same results because of how they're doing that.
Right.
So, or someone may go, like, I have students that don't have any money to put towards marketing. And that's going to lend itself to doing more prospecting than marketing.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if most people know the difference.
Well, let's go and get some insight. We got some minutes here, and just for the records who are listening, I average about $2,000 to $3,000 a month, and that's excluding some of the tools that I use, and maybe we'll do a whole show on that. From PropStream to Batch Leads to Mojo Dialer to a skip tracing subscription, or are you going to use the skip tracing inside of? And I don't think people understand all those nickels and dimes. And when we talk about nickels and dimes, we're talking about $99 for this, $49 for this. And then also when you're texting, which everybody's a big fan of, talking about, how many people get a text and you always answer it. But when people getting texts from people, numbers they don't know, talking about buying a house, they do not respond. And most times, let me let y'all know this, those who do respond, they respond with, go fuck yourself, or,
yeah,
remove my list. Did you see an agent sign in the yard? And they'll send you a long ass text back to cuss you out. And you got to be mentally built to deal with that bombardment of anger spewed at you.
Well, it's not directed towards, just understand, it's not directed towards you.
Right.
You, the individual.
Right.
It's directed to, stop bothering me.
Right.
Like, I don't know who you are, but, stop bothering me.
Right.
Right. And it's like the company that calls and wants the extended warranty on
your car.
vehicle.
Everybody's getting that call.
Yeah. I mean, it could be 1,000 different people making those phone calls from 1,000 different organizations.
Right.
But the person receiving that phone call
thinks we all the same.
Thinks it's all the same.
Right. Could they ask me sometimes, would you tell your friends to quit?
Exactly. Exactly. So I wanna kind of talk about that briefly, about the difference. So everybody has time and money. So you have to, if you're marketing and you want to say, what's the best thing for me to do? Well, it depends on the budget. I don't really care what your budget is, but you do need to have time or money, and the combination of the two helps.
Right.
Right. So if you don't have any money, but you have lots of time, think of it this way. I use this analogy all the time. Think of it this way. You've got a haystack. Inside that haystack is a needle somewhere. So there's two ways to find that needle. The first way, which is the most difficult way, but requires no money at all, is to get on your hands and knees and pull individually every piece of hay.
And sift through it,
right? Now, that takes no money, but it takes a fair amount of energy and time to do it.
Right.
But eventually, guess what? It works. Or if you have more money than time, you can go down to the store and you can buy yourself the biggest, baddest magnet, strongest magnet you can afford, whatever that budget is, and then you just go and hover it over the haystack, and the needle will jump to the magnet. Well, the difference between those two, the pitchfork version, the on your hands and knees, that's prospecting. That's where you go out and find. That's the driving for dollars. That's the cold calling, Craigslist or Zillow or for sale by owners. That's driving around neighborhoods. That's networking, going on Facebook, telling people what you do. Those are all what I call prospecting activities. And then you have the advertising. That's where you go and you put an ad on Facebook Marketplace, or you put an ad in Craigslist, or you buy a billboard, which I don't recommend, but you do mailings, you any other kind of form of marketing. You send letters, you send postcards, you text, you do ringless voicemails, where you actually spend money
Bandit signs
on that magnet. Yeah.
To attract.
Yeah, that's advertising. So you got prospecting and you have advertising. One requires more time than money, and the other one requires more money, and you don't have to have as much time because the magnet's doing some of the work for you.
Right. All right. So, I like that. And one simple way that I break it down is I tell people you either going to use your brain, your intellect, and know how to figure out things, or you're going to use your bank if you have the bank money.
Yeah.
Or you're going to use your back. You're going to have to physically do it yourself. And it's not one is greater than the other, but, a lot of times I tell the students, I need you to be the back and using your back. And I'll use a little of my bank, but what's most important is me having the brain power, the intellect to be able to figure out if this is a deal or a dud. Because a lot of times when you first starting off, you don't have and that's one of the things that we transfer to them. If we even thought about the matrix, what we're attempting to do with our mentees and students is to hook them up like the matrix and download all this information that we've obtained over 20 plus years in a short period of time. And that's why there's a transfer of funds, because you want us to download all this information that we've obtained in this short period of time. And so some students are like, oh, why you so much? I'm like, I'm gonna save you so much more time, so much more wasted time. Like aren't you surprised, students? As soon as somebody calls and they want to sell their house, they want to run over there. They don't even know how much they're asking for it. I said that's a rookie move. You at least want to make sure you're in the ballpark for a number.
Yeah, I would agree.
Before you just run over there.
You and I do that, but I tell all my students, I don't care at first. It's not about getting the deal as much as it is getting the experience. Right. So I agree with that. Like you and I would never do that.
Right.
However, if you're brand new, even if the deal was a crap deal, that experience to go there will teach you, like what you and I know. Right. I'm not going because that's a crap deal. Because guess what? We did do that. Right. We jumped in the car, we ran there, and we went, oh, geez, this is a crap deal.
Right.
Well, that's the only way you're going to get.
You got to get some stage time.
That's the only way you're going to get.
Got to get on the court.
Yeah. So let's talk about what you think is working today.
What I know is working today, and this is factual based, Drive for Dollar still works. I got several of my students. I picked up a deal here and there from still Drive for Dollars. Text marketing is working for a lot of my former students, not myself as much. Because I got some people but they're texting out anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 texts a day. So myself, anywhere between 500, 1,000, sometimes 250. I'm still out on the jury on the text marketing. I know it sounds better.
I have lots of students texting. I have lots of students texting, and depending on who you talk to, I personally don't, because I have the franchise. I have to follow I do my marketing through the franchise now.
Right. And are they doing any text marketing, or do you know?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think
so. They're doing more commercial stuff.
Yeah, they're more the traditional marketing. They're more
the big boy marketing.
Yeah, they're more direct mail. They're more
radio ads,
radio, TV,
bus stops.
Yep, the traditional type things, and those will all work, but they are expensive.
Very expensive. So I'll need y'all to hear that.
They do, what we call search engine optimization, do a lot of internet marketing.
Right.
And I will say from students, internet marketing, you got to think of where people are. Okay, think of yourself. You have a need you have a need, you're going to market, you're going to, forget about prospecting for a second. Let's talk about the advertising or marketing side of it, right? Not the driving for dollars, not the calling of direct calls, but you want to put something in place that's more automated. Well, I'm not a huge fan of texting, even though I've seen it work, because I don't like it when I get text messages.
Right.
And it's very, what's the word? Intrusive, obtrusive. And do I think it works? Yes. Do I think it works for my personality? No, not really. Number one, it really is not a legal way of marketing. Even though everybody does it, there is regulations out there that basically say you can't do that under the, what is it, TPCA or TCPA? I don't remember what the acronym is, right? But that doesn't stop people from doing it. And I think that's one of the reasons why the larger corporations don't do it unless they get an opt-in. Same thing with emails. You've got to get an opt-in. But there's ways around that. So, for example, like we send stuff out on social media, or not anymore, but we used to send stuff out on social media that would ask someone, hey, if you're in foreclosure, go download our free ebook to give you the 10 steps that would help you stop foreclosure. Well, they go out there, and before they get the ebook, they put their name, their phone number, and their email in there, because that's how we're going to deliver it. And they opt in by putting that in there. Right. So then it's legal.
Right.
Right? But again, there's always a difference between right, wrong, and reality.
Right.
Right? So the reality of it is people do it every day, just like the people that are calling you about your car warranty.
Right, right. So what's working for your team over there?
Well, again, all the stuff that I mentioned, like direct mail, all of those things that I use in
the franchise
works pretty well, but it's expensive, right? And not everybody needs to do that and can do that. So you have to look at how to become a guerrilla marketer on, you got the champagne experience with the beer taste, right? So you got to come at it with a beer budget, not a champagne budget.
Right.
So the beer budget thing, or the guerrilla marketing techniques are, I personally still like driving for dollars into neighborhoods where I have flyers or door hangers that I go into neighborhoods and I put door hangers. Now, I use a free pre-foreclosure list, and I've been tracking that pre-foreclosure list for years. So I know certain parts of town that lend itself to a higher propensity of foreclosures based on demographics. So if I'm in that area, I've got flyers that I can put on their door as a door hanger. But that requires me, and I'm more of an automation kind of guy and not a doing kind of guy. I want to write the check because I can do that now. I want to write the check and have somebody else do it, and then just my phone ring.
Right.
But if you're on a low budget, which the majority of the people are, you want to start off by door knocking or driving for dollars, Craigslist, Zillow, using tools like that to get your first deal under your belt, get a little bit of money, make $5,000, $10,000, and take that money. Don't go spend it on something.
Go buy back in your business.
Go buy yourself a new clothes or a pair of shoes or something, right? Something nice to pat yourself on the back.
Celebrate yourself.
Yeah. But then take the majority of it right away and put it back into the business, because that's what's going to free you over time. And that's why I said earlier, I feel like we have been lazy, or I can say I've been lazy because I haven't been out shaking the tree.
Right.
So what about you?
Well, again, as I said, the driver dollar is working. We've been doing myself included, plus a lot of my students, have had a lot of success with the text marketing, um, cold calling from those various lists, and understand that a lot of the lists come from your driving for dollars. And so, even again, today's time, you got to look at the data. You can buy a list of 10,000 names. You got quantity, and all of them got 5 numbers, but all 5 numbers not going to work.
That's right.
So it sounded good on the front end. I'd rather have go drive for dollar and somebody send me a list of 50 or 100 drive for dollar lists. At least I know these houses are really vacant or look distressed in comparison to buying a list of absentee owners or supposedly vacant houses, because the vacant houses couldn't be being renovated or been renovated and they just been sitting. And so it comes back to, are you looking for quantity of numbers of a list, or are you looking for quality? And that's why I like to drive for dollars, or maybe even we were talking about this, the old school of going to court of code enforcement. But again, that requires you to use your back and your time to go down there, and then you got to also have a skill set to talk to a person who just came out of court who's mad.
Well, yeah, that's a great point, because so often I see people go to seminars, because you and I, we teach them, right?
Right.
And the sexy part of the seminars are the techniques and what we say we make money at.
Right.
Buying subject to, creative financing, that type of stuff. But the reality of it is, when you go to these seminars, the person you're listening to is teaching you steps 4, 5, and 6, and not steps 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
Because that's not the sexy part of this business.
Right.
Because let's face it, people buy on emotion and justify later on logic. Well, if I gave you the logic first, you'd be like, this is boring, because the logic of this is preparing your business first, getting your goals and objectives, putting your infrastructure in, and it's quality, not quantity. And everybody wants to go out and buy many houses a month. And the reality of it is, to really make an impact on your life, all you need is 1 or 2 houses the entire year. I mean, let's face it, Christy, my business partner, we, on our rehabs, we'll buy it, fix it, and flip it. Our average profit has been somewhere around $100,000 for every buy, fix, and flip we make. Well, think about it. If we want to make $200,000 each a year, and our average is $100,000 profit, not expense, profit, how many houses do we need to do in a year? We need to do 4.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that difficult to find 4 deals in an entire year.
Great deals.
Right. But people, they tend to forget that. So it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And the same goes with when you're out there looking for leads. If you're driving for dollars in the right neighborhood, and you spend 2 or 3 days getting 40 or 50 houses that you find, you may not get those houses under contract right away, but by you putting together a good follow-up system, those 40 houses that you saw this week, or 60 houses, or however many you looked at, may not come to fruition for another 4 months.
But it's just like harvesting anything. You plant a seed, it takes time for it to come to fruition.
You've got to prepare yourself for not the instant gratification.
Right.
You've got to have a good follow-up system, which goes back to my original statement. It's not the sexy part of the business.
We're going to have to do a podcast on that, and it just came to my mind, which I say it all the time. It's so much hype out there instead of real help. Yeah. Because you even hear this one guy out there, he's talking about doing 100 deals a month. I'm not saying he's not. I know I've never done 100 deals in 1 month. I've never done 50 deals in 1 month. But again, what he's doing is JVing. And then a lot of times, as me and one of my students, our average wholesale deal when we're really hitting it is anywhere between $25,000 and $30,000. You got guys out here who are doing wholesale deals for $1,000, $2,000. Yeah, so you need to do 10.
But think about how much energy that takes.
I understand that, but again, they're looking at the numbers. So when you ask them, how many did you make? I made 2 on that one. I made 3 on this one. I made 1,500 on that. they add up, but you're not doing quality deals. You're trying to make deals out of really deals that I would pass over because I'm not going to play with this seller
I
and tell
agree.
them lies.
I agree.
And then sometimes there be 4 and 5 different people involved in this one deal, so they all splitting $6,000 because this person got it from that person, this person got it from that person. And two things I want to end with. Number one, as Don said, all of it work, but you got it. It starts with what is your budget for your marketing, or are you gonna just have to use your back? Because and if you're working a full-time job, you got a full family, it's hard to spend 3 hours cold calling when the kids are there in your lap. When I was single, or when me and my wife first got married, I had all the time in the world. Now I got football practice, and you don't even realize it because these things just come with life.
Yeah.
That start taking a piece out of your life that you realize that you don't even realize it because it's just what you got to do.
Yeah. That's why I say you got to put a system in place.
Right.
And there has to be a purpose. You have to have a purpose. You can't just go, well, I'm going to do this. And there has to be meaning and thoughtfulness behind what you do. There has to be a purpose behind it. And that means going out, getting yourself some goals and objectives, figuring out what direction you want, what type of investments you want. If you haven't thought through those things, because all of those, so if I have no money to put on marketing, I can't do text messaging because I can't afford it. So you go to go to these seminars or they buy these products, and the person standing up front says, okay, you need this, 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 and this. And before you realize it, you're spending $500-$600 on tools
and you ain't even got to use yet.
Used.
Right.
So I tell people, I'm like, look, don't spend anything until you've answered a few basic questions like, how much money is in my budget? If you're spending more money on tools than you are on the actual marketing itself to get the homeowner to raise their hand, that's a problem.
We're going to have to extend this.
Yeah, I know. We're 32 minutes in this thing.
So we're going to say, number one, drive for dollar still works, as you were saying. Number two, outbound marketing, where we attract people when you use the metaphor of having the big, expensive magnetic marketing where people are calling you. And number three, this is one that most people don't understand. A lot of stuff comes from referrals, but people got to know this is what you do. And you got to be consistent with it. I mean, so often, especially in my time of being in this business, I get other students who call, people call, you still do real estate? Hey, I got a situation.
I hear it every day.
And so that's something that's going to come in time. But again, you got to be known for what you do. It can't be you're doing travel next week or you're selling wine the week after that. Everybody knows that I do real estate, and most people know that wholesaling is my main thing, even though they hear me talk about subject to sometime. So that's what we're going to conclude with that, but we will be back talking about all this hype and instead of real help out there.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, send us an email or send us something. You can go to mrtycoon.com. and check out Tycoon stuff. Or if you prefer, I have a a link, whatever that's called, where you go to donderosa.com, and that has all my contact information, has all my social media stuff, everything. So check us out on either one of those. But if you're listening to us on YouTube or wherever, leave us a comment. Tell us what you want us to talk about and what subjects that you want. Because there's no lack of
information
topics
between the two of us.
Yeah, there's no lack of topics here, but we want to make sure that we're giving you what you want
and what you need.
Yeah, so by all means. So let's finish it out. I'll start by saying that, hey, if you need any information from me, simple, go to donderosa.com. That will give you everything you need for me, all the contact information that you need. And
for myself, you can go over to mrtycoon.com. That's MRTYCOON.com. Or you can follow me on IG at I am Mr. Tycoon. And I just started TikTok also, so help me get my TikTok up, The Real Mr. Tycoon, on TikTok. Again, we're going to conclude this one. Look forward to talking to you real soon. And we got some subject matters that came out of this particular conversation about how we're going to share things that will actually help you and not just hype you up. Until next time, as always, peace.
Peace.